Hey there, Misfits. This is Kate.
And this is Kevin.
Welcome to Horrorwood. Did it sound like I said Horrorwood?
No, Horrorwood. You said
Okay.
it.
Okay, good.
Well, it'd be on brand for us after that pumpkin I made for the live show.
Which we just threw out today.
You threw out the horror pumpkin.
It was so moldy. Oh my God. It was so gross. It was like seeping into the deck.
Oh.
It was so gross. And then I let Frankie out on the balcony and she was like, what's this? I was like, stay away.
No, stay away from the horror pumpkin.
Away.
Amazing.
Well, I'm glad that we started with that because that gave me a nice little chuckle.
Yay.
Because this week sucked.
Fuck.
But you know what? We're here. For many of us, we're not feeling super great after election results. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to tell stories and try to make sense of this doom and gloom.
I mean, all I'll say about it is this. Thank you, Betty.
Kevin speaks for all of us here.
So does
I
Betty.
should say Betty
Yeah.
speaks for all of us. So we're filming. We're not filming. We're recording this on Thursday, November 7th.
Yes.
And so results came in last night or yesterday. You know, it was just like everyone was kind of having a down day in our circles.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then I got this email from
Yes.
YouTube because
I love it.
anytime someone comments, it gets forwarded to my personal account. And so I see everything, which is good because then I don't miss anything. But it can be good or bad.
It can be a lot at times, I'm sure.
So I'm like, okay, what are they going to come at me with now?
It's funny because it's always like, okay, well, that's what I do when I open my email every morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what shit's going to hit the fan this morning that I have to
Exactly.
deal with for the rest of the day?
Yeah. And I was like, here we go. And I open it. And it was a comment on the Rob Knox episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading it and it was very favorable. And it's saying like all these amazing things. And I was like, whoa. And then I saw who it was from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from Rob Knox's dad.
Oh,
And I just showed it to Kevin.
that's
And
so cool.
it was like I literally burst into tears when I got it.
Yeah.
And Matt was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No," for so many reasons. But yeah, it was the exact thing that I needed to read in that moment,
Yeah.
and it was just like a reminder of one of the reasons that we do this.
100%.
And so I think I'm going to print it out. Matt was like, "Print that out and frame it." And I think I'm going
Yes,
to.
I think you should. Absolutely. That's a beautiful comment. And to a tragic story that I think you told very well.
Thank you. And he appreciated the humor in it. And I'm so sorry. I'm still so super congested. So apologies. But yeah, that was so lovely. And I need to write him back. What else? Oh, I do want to mention. So everyone should have received their
Fall gift package.
fall gift package if you were supposed to get one. So if you're like, what's that? Then you probably weren't signed up for it, and that's totally fine. If you were signed up on our Patreon by September 1st, then you should have received your fall gift package by now. That includes international people. If you haven't, let us know. But
Sure, yeah.
for the U.S., all of the things have said that they've been delivered.
Okay,
So,
great.
and we've heard from some of the international people that they've gotten there. So
Wonderful.
everyone should have them.
That was fun to put together. I hope you like it.
Yeah, that was super fun. I mean, people have been like writing us. And so, yeah, I think people were into it.
Yay.
Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, and after our Misfit Monday last week, people are sending in their stories.
Yes, send them on in.
So that's super exciting. We love it. And now I guess we're going to get into this episode today.
Okay.
We've had some haunted things. We've had some fun things.
Yes.
We are getting nitty gritty today.
Oh, God.
Content warning up front. There is a brief brief discussion of suicide.
Okay.
So this week we're talking about Peter Arne. He was a British character actor who was bludgeoned to death in his own home.
No.
No one was ever held responsible for his death.
No.
For reasons which will become clear later in the story.
So we have an unsolved.
Technically, it is a closed case.
Oh.
It is solved, but some people aren't super thrilled with
the result of that.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or they don't find the result satisfactory,
Sure.
I should say. This was a suggestion from one of our listeners, Kate in Japan.
Kate!
Thank you so much, Kate. I did not know anything about this case before.
Wow, thanks for the rec.
Yeah. Peter Arne was born Peter Randolph Michael Albrecht.
That's a name.
It's a lot of names, actually. I'm so sorry. I don't want to have to edit all of my coughs out.
I think you should keep them all in.
Oh my God, people would die.
No, I think we just say explicit X. No, that's a weird thing to say. I don't know.
My coughs are so explicit.
Kate, those are some sexy coughs.
I've got a sexy cold. I'm like Phoebe Buffet. Oh my God. Newsflash.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know why I just thought of this. Did you see that Simple Modern just came out with Harry Potter houses tumblers?
No.
So you can pick like, are you Gryffindor? Are you Slytherin? Are you Hufflepuff?
Hufflepuff.
And they're all decorated according to those houses.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I'd send that your way because you're a
Kate.
Simple Modern queen like
I'm
myself.
an SM. Oh.
Wow.
No.
Learning
Simple.
a lot about Kevin today.
Listen, no shame, not in that community. Love Simple Modern, though.
Yes, and not that there's anything wrong with that community.
Oh, I said, no, absolutely. We're all fam.
You know what?
In the club, we all fam. Have you, from Broad City.
In the club, we all... All right, we're going to get into this. But it's good to laugh. Feels really good to laugh.
It was good to laugh for the first time in 2 days.
Oh, my God. All right. As I was saying, Peter Arne was born Peter Randolph Michael Albrecht on September 29th, 1918, 1920, or 1924, depending on which source you're using.
These older cases.
Yes.
There's always 700 different articles that say a different year,
Yes.
each of them.
And I'm like, how do you not know? There are
Records.
census records. Bizarre.
Bizarro.
He was born in Kuala Lumpur, British Malaya, which is now Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time he reached his 20s, he was living in England. He served in the Royal Air Force in World War II
Whoa.
as a fighter pilot and flew in the pivotal Battle of Britain. The battle took place between July and October of 1940. So Peter would have been around 20 years old. Hitler wanted to take over Britain, but in order to do so, he would have to conquer Britain's airways. This is recorded as the first battle in history to take place entirely in the air. I did not know.
I had no idea.
Yeah. The Royal Air Force was successful in defeating the German Air Force, or the Luftwaffe, but not before Peter's plane was shot down as he flew over the English Channel.
Oh, my God.
He managed to escape
Oh.
and began swimming to a nearby shore. And as he did so, he notices a crowd gathering around and they're all shouting for him. He's getting pumped and he's like, all these people are cheering me on. He's like, I'm going to make it. And he gets safely to shore.
Okay.
And he's like, oh my God, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the support. And they're like, dude, what the fuck? You just swam through a minefield. We were trying to warn you. Peter was like, oh. So when I first read about this, my reaction was, of course the actor thinks everyone is applauding him when they're actually trying to
He's
warn
like,
him.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
and
he's
they're like,
"Thanks so much, you
oh my
guys."
God.
They're like, we thought you were going to die. After his time in the Air Force came to an end, Peter got involved in British repertory theater.
Hey.
So he was part of a company performing in plays, and he got favorable reviews.
Good. I could see that, like, you know, after being in something so traumatic, like maybe needing something therapeutic.
Well, what's interesting about it is that once he got into film,
Yeah.
most of his roles were like British war dramas.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, never mind. I
Sometimes
retract
he was
my
playing
statement.
like a British officer. Sometimes he was playing a Nazi.
Well, he had the experience.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's what made him good at it because he did get a lot of, good.
Reviews and
Yeah,
accolades,
exactly.
and good for him.
His first film role was in 1944 in a movie called For Those in Peril. So the title kind of says it. It's a British war drama. He played an officer, and I think it was just a bit part because he was uncredited. And it was another 4 years before his next film. In 1948, he played a soldier, again, uncredited. Right. So he was doing some theater. He had a little experience in film, but it's not like he was some well-established A-lister. He was getting by.
He was getting by, right.
And he's young at this point. He's in his late 20s. And he was dating a man named Jack Cork, who was also an actor.
Gays?
Gays!
In the 40s?
In the 40s, baby.
Oh.
Yeah, Britain hated it.
Yeah, no, I know. Yikes.
Very few people knew that Peter was gay. 1940s Britain wasn't a place that accepted homosexuality, and in fact, because of the repressive attitudes there, many gay British residents were immigrating to South Africa, which had a more liberal atmosphere.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
I didn't either. Peter and Jack decided to move there. In 1948, they boarded the SS Cairo to make the journey. And it was on the ship they met and befriended Julia Mullard, or Millard, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and her partner, renowned author, Mary Renault.
Ooh.
Mary and Julie, both British, had been a couple for several years by then, but they couldn't live openly due to the homophobic nature of Britain. So they'd been planning a move abroad for a while, they just didn't have the money. But that all changed in 1948 when one of Mary's novels, it was her fourth book, titled Return to Night, won MGM Studios' annual contest for Best Book of the Year.
Well, shit.
I sound like shit.
I think you sound fine.
I need my inhaler and I need a lot of medicine. The contest was a strategic move on MGM's part. Only legit publishing houses could submit manuscripts for the competition, and the winner would receive $100,000.
Hey, damn.
Plus, up to an additional $5,000 based on the number of copies sold.
Yeah.
The $100,000 amount was the prize in 1943, which was the first year of the contest. I think by 1948, it had increased to $150,000. It was somewhere in there, which was no small chunk of change.
Not at that time.
I mean, that's a lot in today money.
Right.
Back then, that was the equivalent of about $1.5 million.
Holy shit.
Yes. In return, MGM would get the movie rights to the book as well as stage and radio rights. And by getting the rights before the book was published, it allowed the studio to cut through the bidding process, which can drive up the price.
Yeah.
So they were getting a deal, hoping for the next Gone with the Wind.
That's smart,
Yeah,
honestly.
It was. Mary's novel won the prize in 1948, beating out several hundred other authors from all over the world.
Yeah.
However, MGM never made it into a movie, stating it was, quote, a bit complicated for the screen. So,
shit.
whatever.
At least you get that money.
Yeah, she got that prize money, but not as much as you would think. She was obviously paid in British pounds. She's in Britain. And unfortunately, Britain had a tax law that forbid its citizens from receiving that sizable amount of money. So the British government took 80% of her winnings for taxes.
No, honey.
Yes, they did, honey.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You would have had words.
Words. Statements. Physical attributes. Okay.
She was left with just 5,000 pounds, which today is just a little over 290,000. So it was significantly less than what she won, but it was still enough to allow her and Julie to immigrate to South Africa.
Girl, use that money and get the fuck out of that country.
Yep, exactly.
They fucked you over twice.
Exactly. That's the thing. She never went back to Britain.
Good riddance. No, I mean, not to her, to
Exactly.
country.
So Mary and Julie happened to read an article in a newspaper that a ship called the SS Cairo would be traveling from Britain to South Africa, and it was just on impulse that they decided to purchase tickets. It was on this ship, as I mentioned earlier, that Mary and Julie met Peter Arne, who was still Peter Albrecht at this time, and his boyfriend Jack Cork. The four began talking and getting to know each other. The women were like, "What do you guys do?" And they said, "We're actors. What about you?" And both Mary and Julie talked about how they had been nurses. That's actually how they met.
Wow.
Mary said, I've just been able to quit my job as a nurse and focus on writing full time. So Peter's like, oh, you must be pretty successful then. And she said, well, I just won MGM's Book of the Year, so I'm like, kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. Also, I love this USS Cairo ship because it's just a bunch of gay guys and lesbians on their way to South Africa having a good old time.
That is exactly what
I want to be on that ship.
So the guys tell her, congratulations, that's awesome. And she said, thanks. Yeah, with the prize money, Julie and I are finally able to move to a place that is more accepting and open. And Peter said, rewind, prize money, you say? So Mary's like, yeah, I won this money. We're going to start a new life. I'm going to focus on my writing. And Peter and Jack were like, that's great. On another note, totally unrelated, I think we're going to be really good friends. So the more the couples chatted and got to know each other, the more Peter and Jack suggested, there it is, ways Mary could invest her money. And Mary and Julie were in agreement. They were like, yeah, investing makes sense. Together, the group came up with the idea of building homes for others immigrating from the UK to South Africa.
Okay, well, that's not a terrible idea.
Yeah, and that's what Mary thought. And Peter and Jack told the women, this will be a great opportunity. Mary, you can use that sweet, sweet cash that you won to buy some land and hire some contractors. And you can buy us all a house that we'll live in while the homes are being built. We'll be immigrants helping other immigrants. The guys were convincing, and Mary and Julie agreed to the arrangement.
Are
you starting to feel a little bit differently?
This wouldn't have been me on this Cairo ship.
Mm-mm.
I would just be like doing the
conga
line down right in my giant chalice, pouring it all over people. Not like investments and prize money. Ooh, blah, blah. Also, they were probably like, what's the word? Like something talkers. Fast talkers, kind of like, oh, yeah, we're a couple of actors.
I love any time that you there's something nefarious going on. You guys can't see it, but Kevin does a little shimmy and his voice changes a little bit. He's like, we're a couple of actors. Hey. Give me $20.
Give me $20. Which is exactly what they did.
Yeah, pretty much. Only they wanted a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Once in South Africa, the four settled in the city of Durban and formed the company Cam Construction. Durban was a developing area at the time. It's a coastal town, so they felt like, hey, this is a great spot.
Yeah.
Mary and Peter also began collaborating on a play they were writing together called Dark Freedom. It was about a father who was a criminal and has been away from his family for 15 years and then suddenly returns. All I can say is that boat ride, I don't know if the alcohol was flowing on that boat. I don't know if there were some drugs happening on that boat. But to just meet, they were complete strangers before. Yeah. And suddenly they're like, yes, let's have a construction business together. Let's live together. Let's write plays together. What?
There had to be either a really strong connection right off the bat. Also, different times, I feel like there's probably more trust in people than we think. But also, these are also people of the same community as you.
That's part of it.
So I get it. I don't get it. Yeah, there had to be something that all of them glommed onto.
Because here's the thing. Mary was significantly older than Peter.
Oh.
He was mid to late 20s, and she was early 40s.
Wow, okay.
So, it's just a weird connection.
Maybe there's also that. They're young guys.
Maternal kind of.
I don't want to say that about all women, but there might have been some kind of whatever weird connection they had.
We want to help you out and you're helping us out.
And you're going to help us and we want to take care of each other.
I guess, but also don't trust anyone.
Ever. Nobody. I don't even know if I really know Kate that well.
You don't. Okay. Wow.
Sorry.
So yeah, the guys said something convincing because Mary had complete faith in them.
Completely on board.
But she should not have.
No.
Because Peter and Jack didn't actually have any interest whatsoever in the business. They were mainly just interested in living off of Mary's money. A shocking plot twist, I know.
It's not even that much money. Like, it could have been so much more.
I think back then, though,
Back then it was a lot.
The two guys liked to party, and in all the sources I read, Jack is described as an alcoholic, like an actual alcoholic.
Full-fledged.
Yeah, so they're drinking, they're shopping, they're partying, all on Mary's dime. And they spent much of their time borrowing Mary's Studebaker. I know absolutely jack shit about cars.
Oh, it's a car.
See?
My first thought went to there's a Studebaker theater here in Chicago, and I was like, the theater?
They borrowed a theater. Apparently, the Studebaker was a good car. I Googled it, literally typed in, was Studebaker a good car in 1948? And Google said, yes. While the guys were out having the time of their lives, they kind of forgot that they were supposed to be running a business. They weren't paying the bills, and the company was beginning to tank. After 6 months, work had begun on only one house, and the other 2 houses weren't even started yet.
Whoa. That's not great at all.
It sure isn't.
Come on, people.
A friend of the foursome started seeing what was going on here and said to Mary and Julie, hey, watch out for those 2. I think they're just using you. Peter and Jack's behavior was getting out of control. Jack was drinking heavily, and the group's mutual friends began to turn their backs on the men. Mary and Julie told them, look, you guys are wreaking havoc. We don't think it's a good idea for all of us to be sharing a house. Like, we could use some space. Yeah. So we'd like you to find somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
And around this time, Peter and Jack wrote a letter to the women, but pretended to be other friends of theirs. They impersonated them. And in the letter, they asked, hey, can you meet us out by the airport to talk about whatever it was they said? So Julie takes the Studebaker and drives out there, which is when Peter and Jack carjacked her, driving away in the car with Julie in it. When they got to an area where the traffic slowed down, Julie managed to escape from the car and the men drove off.
Did she know it was them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The women obviously reported the incident to police.
Good.
Who were able to track down the stolen car.
Good.
And through her lawyer, Mary was able to obtain the resignations of Peter and Jack from the business, and she cut ties with them completely.
Bye.
The men then fled, moving back to Britain to escape embezzlement charges.
You know, I'm not happy with these 2. At first, I was like, the gays!
You're like, the gays!
And then I'm
I was like,
they're
oh, he's going to be
terrible.
so sad in a minute.
No, we're not all good.
I mean, I'm looking at one right now.
Oh!
Oh,
That deserved Betty.
So this is the time when Peter changed his last name from Albrecht to Arne. I couldn't find any concrete evidence stating he did it because of what happened in South Africa.
I would guess he probably did.
If I were to bet, I would say he was trying to give himself a new identity, just so that he didn't have to face the consequences of, the whole stealing money thing.
Oh, embezzling and then stealing someone's car with them in it.
He wants to kind of avoid that whole situation. I couldn't find what happened to Jack after this. He and Peter eventually split, and Jack did not have the career that Peter did, which I'll get into.
Was Jack, I can't remember, was Jack in the theater too?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. They were both actors. Okay.
Mary's next book was The Charioteer, which is a love story between 2 men during World War II. It became a bestseller, particularly within the gay community.
Wow.
And it's considered a cult classic.
Oh my God, we have to read this.
Get on it. It was the first book published in England to feature a gay protagonist in a romantic story with a happy ending. Groundbreaking. The gays can love.
I'm obsessed with this, Mary. She's amazing. Also, that would have been, if they would have just been nice people, that would have been the play or the movie.
Yeah.
They really fucked everybody over.
Everybody.
Already had hers. What?
Yep. After this book, she focused on writing historical fiction set in ancient Greece. That kind of became what she was known for. The Charioteer was her last contemporary fiction.
If you're going to do some homo stuff, Greece is the place.
Get into ancient Greece.
You better get that ancient Greek.
Playwright and actor Noel Coward had this to say about The Charioteer. Quote, I have read The Charioteer by Miss Mary Renault. Oh dear, I do wish well-intentioned ladies would not write books about homosexuality. Over the whole book is a shimmering lack of understanding on the subject. She's gay, just to remind her. I'm sure the poor woman meant well, but I wish she'd stick to recreating the glory that was Greece and not fuck about with dear old modern homos.
Noel Coward was gay, wasn't he?
Yeah, super gay.
What the fuck? No, you better shut your damn mouth.
Well, guess who Noel Coward's private secretary was?
Who?
Peter Arne.
Peter Arne!
Hiss. After Peter said peace out to South Africa, he moved to London and got back into acting, and he worked as Noel Coward's secretary. The two of them became very good friends, and he appeared in plays, and it seems like he always got good reviews. In 1958, a reviewer for the Guardian Journal called him magnetic, bold, and persuasive, and giving a virtuoso performance. So he was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well received?
Yes,
by the
that's
theater
it.
community?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I get it.
I was like, he was well liked. No, there's something better.
Sure. I also just imagine Peter like in Noel Coward's office. Like, I knew her. You know what I mean? Obviously not talking like that, but probably like a little cricket in Noel's ear. I can't talk either, Kate. I'm so sorry.
You know what? It's been a rough week.
It's all bad.
And I'm flying out of the country tomorrow, and I haven't even packed.
Listen.
I'm
You
so
might
excited.
need to stay there, and if things go down,
Which
I
they
need you to
already are.
get me out.
Okay, I will.
Can we handmaid tale it?
Yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
Peter's film career started to pick up. He was in a lot of, like I said earlier, British war films. He often played an officer of some type or a villain.
Yeah.
Always in character roles. He was not the leading man type. In the 1950s, he was doing film after film. A couple of his most notable include The Cockleshell Heroes, which starred Jose Ferrer.
What kind of movie was that?
A war movie.
Uh-huh.
And The Moonraker. It's not what you're thinking, I can tell
I
you.
know. I'm just being a dirty old man.
Then in the 60s, he started doing a lot more TV, and his film career took a back seat. But he was always working, and he was still doing theater. I read one article that said his career took a disappointing dip in the 60s, but then you look at his IMDb, and it's like, no, he was just working steadily the entire time.
Yeah, it's like that thing of like once you exit the film world and decide to go to TV, which a lot of people do at some point or another in their careers, which is a great move.
Well, he didn't even exit TV. Like, if you're an actor, you're an actor.
Yeah.
And like, because he was a character actor, he could work a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of fly under the radar a little bit.
It feels misguided to say that his career took a dip.
Yeah. They're like, oh, he's done. It's like, no, he literally is working constantly. Some of the more recognizable movie titles he was in throughout his career include Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Antony and Cleopatra, Victor Victoria, and he did 3 Pink Panther movies. So he was working with big names. Despite not necessarily being a big name himself, he was working constantly.
Whoa, those are big titles.
Yeah. And in his free time, he liked to collect antiques and would also sell them. That was a favorite hobby of his.
Oh, brother, don't get me started on these gays and their antiquing.
Oh, God.
When I worked up in Maine for that summer, there were a bunch of like old theater gays who would come to the theater and like see all the shows. But then my boss, who was in her 70s, would go antiquing with all these old gay guys. And
I kind of love that.
I didn't.
I imagine that Peter traveled a lot for work, so he would find some really cool pieces because he had quite a collection.
Of what?
Antique
Just
pieces.
antiques?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know I don't know. They
You're
were
like-
old. That's all I know.
He liked old things.
And from what I've read, once he'd moved back to London from South Africa, he didn't steal anyone else's car or try to embezzle money from any of his friends. So I think
Maybe
those days
Jack
were behind
was
him.
the
I kind of
bad
wonder that
influence.
because Jack was the alcoholic and I don't know, he was young, he just got out of the war.
And obviously, like, when you're dealing with a cultural thing where you can't be yourself, that creates in itself a lot of mental instability. So, I don't know. I don't want to blame Jack because we don't know, but it's sounding like...
And it's not to, like, relieve Peter of the responsibility.
No, because he did all that shit. But
certainly.
it says something to me if somebody stops doing that stuff.
Yes.
Because with everything that you and I talk about, Kate, people who do these things, commit crimes, and are not great tend to continue to be not great.
Yeah. And he didn't escalate. Like, he really did just kind of stop. In fact, actress Sylvia Sims, who worked with him on multiple projects, said he was a lovely, dear friend. And another actress, It might be Glynis Barber. It might be Jenny Laird. I was listening to an audio recording, and it was really difficult to understand what the guy was saying. And the transcript was
terrible,
not accurate. But anyway, some actress he worked with described Peter as a sensitive, gentle, generous man, saying he was elegant, a man with class and style.
I like that.
Yeah. He was even known to go to the poorer areas in London and chat with people who were homeless or down on their luck, and he'd bring them food and just talk with them for a while.
That's sweet. It sounds like he's trying to like make amends for maybe something that he did wrong.
That's kind of what I took from it.
Okay.
And this is how he met Giuseppe Perussi. In the summer of 1983, Perussi moved from Verona, Italy to London. He was around 32 years old and in Italy had been working as a teacher for kids with special needs, but had become fed up with how the school was being run. He wasn't happy with the administration there. He also served on Verona's town council, which sounds very important.
Damn.
But I think he was frustrated with some of the issues on the agenda there. It just seemed like he was unhappy with how things were being run in every aspect of his life. And to top things off, he and his girlfriend broke up.
Boo.
Relatives of Perussi reported that he was having thoughts of suicide.
No.
He was definitely feeling depressed.
Okay.
So he asked his bosses at the school where he worked if he could take a leave of absence, which they approved. He traveled through Europe, arriving in London in June of 1983, but he didn't have anywhere to live, which led to him sleeping in a park, which is where Peter met him sometime in July. Because Peter went to...
Right, he went to parks to give out food.
Yeah. Witnesses say Peter brought Giuseppe sandwiches and would talk to him, and he was known to do this with other people in this area.
Course.
The British press was quick to say that he did this to pick up men. Like he would prey on vulnerable guys and say like, hey, can I give you a place to sleep for a night? And it's pretty rough how the press trashed him in the papers. But Peter's friends said this was not who he was at all.
Okay. There is a subculture of stuff like that, though.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm glad that a friend was able to say maybe, no, that's not the case.
But very few people in Peter's circle even knew that he was gay.
Oh, shit.
So
maybe
it's
we
possible.
Don't know.
Yeah. Neighbors said that there were always young men going in and out of his flat. Maybe there were, maybe there weren't. And even if they were, it's impossible to know if these were down on their luck men that he picked up off the street or if they were even men he was hooking up with.
Right.
They literally could have just been friends coming over for a drink.
Exactly. And if he was hooking up with them and it was consensual and it was fine, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Other residents in the building said Peter kept to himself and they didn't really know him that well. In which case, how could they know if the people he had over were there to have sex or to simply hang out? You know, like, we just don't know.
He knew a lot. I mean, working in TV and film, I'm sure he knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter's described as being a great storyteller and a popular party guest. And it sounds like he had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was, at other people's places a lot and vice versa. It's unclear how many times Peter met Giuseppe at the park, if it was just the one time in July or what, but he did seemingly have plans to meet him again because in his date book, he had written Giuseppe's name for August 8th. They were going to meet up August 8th. So maybe he planned to invite him over that day or was going to see him again at the park then, but we don't have the answer to that. Peter lived in an affluent neighborhood of London. He lived in Knightsbridge at...
Ooh.
Yeah, fancy. At Hans Place, which is directly behind Harrods department store.
Yeah.
But he was in what was basically a studio apartment on the ground floor. It was really small. The room had a small bed, a table and chairs, desk and TV, and then there was a kitchenette, like not even a full kitchen, just like a little, and a small bathroom.
Wow. Did I tell you that I applied to work at Harrods and got an interview there once?
What?
So after while I was finishing my master's, I was like, oh, I'm staying. Like I got my post-study work visa or was in the process of applying for it. So I applied for being a seasonal worker at Harrods.
Amazing.
And I had a phone interview with this lady. And then I got called in for like a group interview.
Oh.
Pretty sure the group interview was just to see how hot you were. Because, I did not get hired. But it was like we got in teams and we had to pretend to be personal shoppers.
Okay.
And they gave us like a scenario of someone coming in and asking something. And then we had to get up and tell them like which department we would take them to and like what we would recommend. And I didn't get the job.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But I got to like go to like the interview room. I got to go to a part of Harrods that I'm sure people don't go to often.
It was a great story otherwise.
Yeah.
Sorry that it didn't work out.
Hey, you know what? Those people are salespeople. Like hardcore.
Yeah, that's so
You've
not
been
me.
there, right? It's not me either. Because like I've been there and but this guy was selling perfume. He was so hot. And like he came up to me and like showed me this big bottle of perfume. It didn't even smell that great. It was like raspberry scented or something.
Ew.
And he sprayed it on my neck and then like leaned in and was like, "This smells so good on your skin." And I was like,
"Get the fuck away
I was
from
like,
me."
"I'll take one. I'll take two." I bought it.
Of course you
so
did.
expensive.
Of course you did. You're like, "You're hot. I'll take a case."
Give me all of it. That makes me sound shallow. I did use the whole bottle out of principle.
Well, there's that. At least you have your principles.
I will not waste scent.
Not a raspberry one, for sure. So the place was small. It was a very modest flat, particularly for that neighborhood. But he also had a house in the city of Plymouth, England, which he would occasionally retreat to, but mainly stayed in his flat in London, especially since he was working a lot.
Yeah.
That summer, he had just done a guest spot on the TV show Heart to Heart with Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers.
Wagner.
We might be talking about him soon. And he had completed work on his third Pink Panther movie, Curse of the Pink Panther.
I need to go back and watch the Pink Panther movies.
How many are there total?
I think there's quite a few.
Yeah.
I could be lying, but I used to like them.
By August, Peter had signed on to play a role in the Doctor Who television series,
Whoa.
which he was scheduled to shoot in just a few days.
Yeah.
On Monday, August 1st, 1983, Peter woke up that morning with a full day ahead of him. First, he had a meeting at the Department of Health and Social Security, followed by a wardrobe fitting for Doctor Who. I see the look you're giving me. I don't know what that meeting at the department was for.
Okay. I figured you didn't, but I was just like, what a meeting.
But he had that meeting that
Hey.
morning. Could have been something like with benefits from like
Sure.
a job. He took a taxi to the fitting, and the driver waited for him there until he was done and then drove him back to his flat at approximately 12:30 p.m.
Okay.
At around 1:30 p.m., Peter spoke on the phone with his good friend Bernard Walsh. Bernard said it was a normal conversation, nothing seemed amiss. Peter told him about the Doctor Who wardrobe fitting he had just come from, and then they hung up. A few minutes later, around 1:50 p.m., Peter's neighbor, Mrs. Roma James, or Romas James, I've seen it a couple different ways, said she heard Peter saying, "Oh, oh, oh," like he was in distress.
Whoa.
And then what sounded like two men, quote, pushing people about. She didn't think much of it because she said there were always people coming and going in and out of Peter's flat.
You know, I won't say it.
Say it.
I mean, like, she didn't think anything of hearing him being like, oh, and then men, like,
Yeah.
okay.
It makes me wonder, like, maybe he was known to have parties over there.
I was going to say, like, maybe she heard stuff.
Yeah, so we don't know. After a minute or so, she heard his door close. And it, like, didn't slam or anything. It was just like, and then it was quiet.
Right. That sounds pretty quick.
Yeah. Almost 2.5 hours later, at about 4:15, Mrs. James left her flat to go shopping. When she walked out her door into the hallway of the building, she noticed blood on the floor and on the wall leading to Peter's door.
Oh, shit.
Along with a blood-stained log from a fireplace.
Oh.
So she and a friend called the police. At 5:35 p.m., so more than an hour later,
Yeah.
Police Constable Paul Edwards arrived on the scene at Peter's flat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they waited to call or if it really just took that long for an officer to show up, but it's a pretty long amount of time.
Pretty substantial amount, yeah.
There were no signs of forced entry, but the phone on the wall of the entryway was dangling off the hook. Inside on the table were 2 cups of coffee. On the floor was a sleeping bag, and next to that was a half-eaten jar of honey. Next to this was some blood-stained clothing that did not belong to Peter.
Whoa, what?
Lying on the floor was the body of a man so badly beaten that a positive identification couldn't immediately be made because his face was so disfigured.
Oh, I hate that.
It took about a day and a half to determine this was Peter.
That was Peter. Oh my God.
Pathologist Dr. Ian West determined the cause of death to be a stab wound to the neck along with head injuries. Based on crime scene photos and what investigators were able to piece together, it was determined that Peter was beaten with a log from his fireplace.
Okay.
He did try to fight back based on his defense wounds.
Yeah.
And tried to escape out of the flat, knocking the phone off the hook as he did so. This is what they're like piecing this story together.
Sure.
He stumbled down the hallway but was overpowered by his attacker.
And it sounds to me like the attacker was already in there waiting for him.
We don't know if he was already in or if Peter let him in because there was no forced entry.
Right.
So investigators do think Peter knew him.
Yeah.
Peter stumbled down the hallway but was overpowered by his attacker, who then dragged him back inside.
Fuck.
They determined this because there were drag marks in the hallway.
Okay.
Back inside, the attacker strangled Peter, then grabbed a bread knife.
Oh my God.
From the kitchenette, slashing his face and neck so violently it severed his carotid artery.
Oh my God.
Think about a bread knife.
No, I don't want to think about a bread knife.
That is vicious.
That's horrific.
This, of course, killed Peter, but his attacker was not done. Even after Peter was clearly dead, the guy grabbed a wooden stool from the kitchen and continued bashing his face in. This was overkill. Like, overkill times 50.
This is disgusting.
Investigators started going door to door, interviewing anyone and everyone they could talk to see if they'd heard or seen anything. Lillian Walden of Hans Crescent, not the same as Hans Place, but it's near there,
nearby,
stated that she was sitting in her dining room when, through the window, she saw a man wearing a safari suit and a rucksack just standing on the pavement. She said he had long curly hair, a beard, and dark blue eyes. Is he like right up against the window? How can you tell what color his eyes are?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little weird.
That is strange.
She said later he was still there, sitting on some steps across from her house, eating from a jar of honey.
The honey jar.
A mailman, Stuart Aldridge, said he was out delivering the mail at 8 a.m., which, imagine getting your mail that early. It's
that
like
never
4
happens.
p.m. here.
They're always out at honestly 8:30.
Yeah, p.m.
p.m.
Yeah.
I'm like 8:30 a.m. Can anyone believe it?
Can you believe it? When he saw a man fitting that same description, this was in Herbert Crescent, which is right next to Hans Place.
Okay.
The man couldn't speak much English, but asked Stuart where Peter lives. Stuart said, "Sorry, I can't help you." 4.5 hours later, at 12:30, Stuart saw the same man in that area eating from a jar of honey.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's taken Stuart 4.5 hours to deliver the mail in this one area, I don't know, but
Stuart,
he's
stop
there.
fucking around.
He's still
Do your
there.
job.
After talking with several people, police were able to put together a photo fit, or a police sketch, of the man. Some witnesses said he had flaming red hair. Some said he had fair hair. Others described it as blonde. So
literally anything.
anything. But there were enough common factors. People described the rucksack, said he looked scruffy. They noted the khaki safari outfit, said he was around 30 years old, about 6 feet tall. So they were able to come up with a pretty accurate image. The photo fit was shown on a crime show that an off-duty river policeman happened to be watching. And that very day, he had been called to recover the naked body of a man from the River Thames. The man wasn't wearing anything except for a pink scarf tied around one of his ankles. So this officer calls up the station that issued the photo fit and is like, "I found a body that I think matches that description." 3 days earlier, a different officer had found a pile of blood-stained clothes on the riverbank along with an Italian passport.
Shit, Giuseppe
Giuseppe Perusi. Officers contacted relatives of Perusi's in Italy to confirm he matched the description of the man found and to confirm the clothes belonged to him, which they did. The blood on the clothes, however, belonged to Peter.
Gar.
Perusi's fingerprints matched prints found on a door in Peter's flat, on the coffee mug, and on that fucking jar of honey. And the pile of clothes found on the floor of Peter's apartment were identified as his as well. He actually changed clothes because people reported him in the safari outfit, but then others said he was wearing like a tracksuit.
Okay.
So my thinking on that is after he committed the murder, he changed out of those clothes.
Well, yeah,
threw
because
him
he
on
has
the
blood
floor,
on him.
put on the new clothes, but I think he's still, because he was still in the apartment,
Right.
got blood on them, and there's blood all over him.
Well, yeah.
Investigators can't, sorry.
I love what you just said, Kate, and I think you should keep it in because it has your name in it.
Investigators.
I'm an investigator.
Investigators can't definitively say Perusi killed Peter because they couldn't find prints linking him to the murder weapons.
Okay.
But all the evidence points
Yeah.
to him. And that's why I say it's not really a satisfactory ending for some, because no one has been able to pay for the crime because Perusi died by suicide.
He did. I was going to ask you. So he jumped in the Thames
Yes.
with the thing tied around his ankle.
Yeah. So that scarf had been given to him by his ex-girlfriend in Italy who had broken up with him. So at first, investigators didn't believe it was suicide. They thought maybe he was hot because this was summer and had just taken off his clothes
Gotten in
to
the
go
Thames
for a
and
swim.
drowned.
But as they started piecing things together and talked to his relatives, he was suicidal. They believe the scarf was like a sentimental something. Their theory is that, and this again is largely from the British press and just that idea of the time, is they were like, oh, Peter tried to have sex with him and he lashed out. We don't know that that ever happened. There's no evidence that that happened. It could have, but we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, but I honestly, that could be a scenario.
Yeah, it could be.
Because I'm thinking Giuseppe's staying in that apartment.
But he's not, because he didn't know where it was.
Oh, he didn't know where it was.
That's why he was going to all these places that sounded like it. Hans Crescent, Herbert Crescent.
So he was trying to find where he lived.
He asked the mailman where Peter lives.
Yeah.
So he sought him out.
Yeah.
He hadn't been there
Okay,
before.
so he hadn't been there before.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, something went down. I think something had to go down between them. And we're never going to know what that is. But
Right.
if something didn't, then what's the motivation?
Right. I mean, he was mentally unwell.
Sure.
He was in a deep state of depression, which is why he left Italy.
Yeah.
And was suddenly homeless. There are a lot of factors that it could be, and we'll never know.
But the thing is also, Kate, like the scarf tied around the ankle it's a big symbol.
I think so too.
That something, he was doing that on purpose for some reason. And it makes me think that it had to do with some kind of sexual relationship with Peter, whether warranted, not wanted, not.
Exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yep, I'm on the same page
Okay.
with you. It could have been something like he tried something, he regretted it.
Sure. I'm not trying to villainize Peter here at all. Sometimes signals get mixed. Sometimes moves get made and they're not wanted. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
We all go through it. But, something happened.
And we don't know what that was.
We don't know. Of course. I can sit here and speculate all day.
It could also be that Giuseppe liked that kindness, wanted a place to stay.
Maybe he rejected him.
Was
and
not
like, no. Yeah.
in the right mind because he wasn't. And went there and, something snapped. I mean, we'll never know.
We'll never know. There's a lot of little signs that are kind of telling, but of course we'll never know.
Yeah.
All alleged, all speculative.
Exactly. Another theory, before they found that it was Giuseppe and they were still trying to determine, what was going on, there apparently had been other murders of antique dealers in the area, which is why I brought that up. But none of his antiques were stolen.
Right. And if it was antique based, you'd think people are taking those things to sell for money.
Yeah, but that was one theory that they worked on for a bit.
I see that.
Scotland Yard Crime Museum, which I just learned was a thing.
Yeah.
It's meant to help officers in cases, so they have a lot of evidence and a lot of like weapons there. I don't know if they still do, but at least at the time, they had the log, the bread knife.
Oh my God.
And the wooden stool.
Whoa.
Yes. And it was on display, and there is a video that I'm going to link, and you can see it.
I want morbid curiosity, fascination. Do want to see that.
So let us know your thoughts if you heard about this case.
So the police closed it.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying at the beginning. Like, we'll never really know what happened.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you can let us know your thoughts.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting.
No, that's okay.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry for cutting you off. And I cut you off again at the end. So, Kate, take it.
Are you sure? He nodded. Okay. Let us know your thoughts on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or you can shoot us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com and keep those stories coming.
Or you can jump on over to Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
I gotta go take some medicine.
Get some sleep. Bye.